Good morning, guys. Welcome to day 188 and tell me YouTube Millionaire. Today we're going to do a reaction video of a new video that came out from melodysheep. They make new videos which are basically documentaries and whatnot very seldomly. But this is the best channel, in my opinion, on YouTube. melodysheep. They are absolutely incredible. If nothing else because they get you to think. It's very mentally stimulating, which is critically important for a person like myself. This one's called Engineering Earth, Sci-Fi Solutions to Earth's Problems. So fitting, seeing as how I made some engineering different planets scientific papers. So, starts off, we are called to be architects of the future, not victims. Melodysheep, more than anything, is their visuals combined with their absolutely majestic music. Oh, mwah, chef's kiss. I love it. Look at the stuff that he's showing right now. The stuff that we can imagine right now is just the tip of the iceberg of what's possible. For all I know, this guy gets inspiration from some of this stuff that I write. I don't know. He might. If he does,
in 1815, a mysterious veil of dust began to spread over the earth. The culprit was a remote East Asian volcano, Mount Tambora. It was the largest eruption in modern history, spewing out 80 cubic kilometers of debris and taking up to 100,000 lives.
By the way, I didn't pre-watch this, so you and I are watching it for the first time together.
But even this was just a fraction of what Earth is capable of. Supervolcanoes, like the ancient eruption of Mount Toba in Indonesia, can unleash 50 times the power and 30 times the amount of debris. An eruption of this scale today would be catastrophic, potentially claiming up to 1 billion lives. There are about 20 active supervolcanoes on Earth today, sleeping beasts that present an even greater threat than asteroid strikes. Instead of waiting for them to explode, what if we could steal their energy and use it for ourselves?
Kind of like geothermal. I think that's what he's referring to. Geothermal.
One NASA engineer has a proposal for exactly that. The idea is to drill a series of boreholes several kilometers deep around the outside of the magma chamber.
Okay, it is geothermal.
Cold water would then be injected down into the rock, become superheated, then get pumped back.
So basically what he's talking about is geothermal energy production on different planets and celestial bodies. Get on your mat. Me talking just gets my dogs to completely spaz out. It happens every time. But yeah, there's nothing stopping us from adapting geothermal energy technology to any other celestial body in the universe, especially if it's a body that's roughly similar in size to the Earth that we could ourselves land on. And do this on Mars.
Back to the surface to carry the heat away, gradually cooling the magma. The location of the boreholes will be critical. Drilling too close to the chamber itself would risk triggering an accidental eruption.
Company by Elon Musk. This is why he's doing it, to bore these types of things. Geothermal energy.
But if done right, the superheated water removed from below would provide a continuous source of renewable energy. And over tens of thousands of years, the energy removed may eventually be enough to cool the chamber completely. To fully protect civilization, we will have to neutralize not just every existing supervolcano, but all future ones. Magma plumes from Earth's...
So the one thing separating ideas from reality is simply someone applying it. So the only thing that stopped us from going to the moon back in the 60s and 70s was somebody applying what we knew we could do. The same thing is true with Mars. Elon Musk is actually applying what we know we can do, and that's how we're getting there. All this stuff you see here, we know it's in theory possible, even with our current conceptions of science and technology. Imagine when people have the resources to actually do this. And again, why I always talk about, oh man, I just need the resources to do this type of stuff, or not quite this, because this is like way far out, but that's why I want resources, so I can get to space. You know, if I want to get to space myself, it would cost me probably $1 million. I think Russia actually sends cosmonauts up to space privately for $20 million a pop. Get on your mat, Chiron. Prices are going down, but still expensive.
Mantle are continually bubbling to the surface. These plumes will continue to trigger supervolcanic eruptions as often as every 50,000 years. Learning to harness these forces could mean the difference between catastrophic collapse and the long-term survival of humanity. But it's not just supervolcanoes we will have to manage. From the lithosphere to the atmosphere, each of Earth's layers are prone to shocks that can threaten civilization and life itself. Our job is to protect and manage these layers with the power of technology to build a safer, more livable planet where life and humans can thrive together for millions of years. And creating a safer planet starts with creating a safer climate.
This stuff is absolutely beautiful. I love it. It's not just important to talk about these ideas, to think about these ideas, to imagine these ideas, but to put such profoundly beautiful visuals to it and music is insanely important. I can't tell you how important this is. It gets people to just think of new things. It inspires people. It is so, so important to inspire people. And that's what this stuff does.
In 1991, the eruption of Mount Pinatubo ejected 20 million tons of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere. Reflecting sunlight around the world and causing global temperatures to fall up to 0.5 degrees Celsius for nearly 2 years. The cooler temperatures even slowed the pace of sea level rise for the next decade. With global temperatures and climate catastrophes on the rise, this event inspired a bold idea. Artificial volcanic eruptions. Like putting sunscreen on the Earth, spraying sulfur dioxide high in the stratosphere would reflect sunlight and temporarily cool the planet.
This stuff is all over the realm of possibility. Next chemtrails.
A single ounce of sulfur dioxide in the stratosphere can offset the warming effects of several tons of carbon dioxide for a year.
And you have sulfur hexafluoride that is a greenhouse gas.
Dusting the sky would have an immediate effect, buying us time to decarbonize the global economy.
So I can appreciate where he's coming from. He's definitely one who's still the narrator and the creator of the video, who still looks at the carbon dioxide emissions of humanity as a problem when we are very low in terms of the parts per million composition of our atmosphere of carbon dioxide in the history of the entire planet, right? The whole life of the planet, we're at a very low point. In fact, we're only a couple hundred parts per million of carbon dioxide above the point where plants themselves would starve. So we actually need more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. I agree with the guy in that we need to protect our planet. Absolutely. 100%. It is our home, and it is a biological creature that is essentially all of us combined. It is very important to do that. It's everything. It's just a matter of prioritization. Do not sacrifice the well-being of human beings, of civilization, of people, for the purposes of maintaining an inanimate object. We need to keep our biome safe and inhabitable, don't get me wrong, but the priorities have to be straight. We also have to have people alive to even be able to perceive its existence. So I understand where he's coming from. It's all good. We know carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. It's very powerful. It's very useful, especially on a planet like Mars, where we want to heat that planet up. But I think he's probably incorrect, along with many other scientists, on where we are in terms of the amount of carbon dioxide that we can handle on Earth. Just look back in the Jurassic era. The Jurassic era on this planet had like 3,000 parts per million carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, something like that. And the average surface temperature was like 75 Fahrenheit. Right now it's 59 degrees Fahrenheit with about 400 parts per million. So we can go a ways before it really becomes a problem.
But there's a catch. The exact effects may be unpredictable and uneven. Weather patterns could become erratic and threaten food supplies. With so much at stake, the fight for control over Earth's climate could even escalate into armed conflict.
Such as the underlying story behind Fallout, the video game by Bethesda. You want to avoid experimenting on the atmosphere? There's a bolder way to cool the planet. Probably using mirrors is what I'm thinking he's going to do. Yep, mirrors. There you go.
A team at MIT has developed a concept for a giant solar shield out in space, thousands of kilometers across.
We can do the same thing with Venus. That's how we could actually
placed where the gravitational pull from the sun and Earth balance out, it could reduce sunlight by 1.8%, just enough to bring temperatures down to pre-industrial levels. The shield would be made of silicon bubbles, inflating out in space to ease their transport, and deflating if the solution needed to be reversed.
Same concept behind solar sails as well, except it uses
Block enough sun This solar shield would have to be absolutely massive, about the size of Brazil. Others have proposed systems of space mirrors to precisely redirect sunlight, which could be used to increase solar radiation if temperatures drop too low in the future.
Yeah, that's right. And it's actually something that's used on solar panel power arrays. If you go through the deserts near Los Angeles, just outside Los Angeles, the solar panel power plants actually direct the sunlight up to a magnet, or like a mirror in the middle of it. It's like a big old tower, and it amplifies the amount of power you get from it. It's totally cool. It looks like you're looking at something from the future. It is so cool.
Large-scale ecosystem engineering can go a long way in securing the stability of Earth's systems. In 2007, the United Nations launched the Great Green Wall Initiative,
This is
a huge effort to plant a 5,000-mile belt of trees across the entire African continent.
And they're starting it now. We can actually re-green the Sahara Desert. It wouldn't take that much effort, honestly.
This vast new forest will not only suck up 250 million tons of carbon, but also combat desertification, increase food security, and create millions of jobs.
They're actually starting this right now. It would not be
Managing our planet effectively will require forging deep alliances with the biosphere. That includes preservation of natural carbon sinks like the Amazon rainforest, which are a critical ecological counterweight to human activity.
Their only downfall is that they post so seldomly.
But in some cases, that may also mean bioengineering new forms of life itself. By tweaking the machinery of photosynthesis, scientists have recently created plants that grow up to 40% larger than their natural counterparts, hinting at a future of radically enriched crops and plant life. They have also begun to engineer algae that convert sunlight into clean-burning hydrogen fuel, and microbes that have been reprogrammed to generate electricity from mud and wastewater. But most dramatically, we are now on the path to creating a hybrid woolly mammoth.
I don't know if you guys heard about this, but we literally brought back dire wolves. I think it was either earlier this year or late last year. I can't remember when. We brought them back from extinction. What the heck? Oh my gosh. And what he's talking about here is not far-fetched at all. We've created goats with artificial wombs. We've cloned them. This is pretty cool stuff.
Taking the genes of Asian elephants. These creatures could be reintroduced to the Arctic, where they would help keep the permafrost frozen and prevent billions of tons of CO2 from leaking into the air.
That we seek of our environment and our future. The stewards of our own future. Do it right. Be inspired.
Genetic engineering could become our most potent tool for managing the planet, maintaining ecological.
Though genetic engineering in this light would not necessarily be required, because there's also this thing called shine down, where you can actually use certain frequencies of light and shine it through DNA from one creature to another and convert that creature to the other creature. It's a real thing. Scientific studies have been done on it. Experiments have been done. It's all documented. You can find it online. I don't know if they actually call it shine down, but that's what I'm calling it. It's genetic engineering in the traditional sense wouldn't even necessarily be a requirement, but you could do both.
Balance and making the biosphere more diverse and resilient. The wonders of the future may not be built with concrete or circuits, but with cells.
Yeah. By the way, apologies if it gets a little annoying that I'm stopping so much, but you got to keep in mind that I got to make sure that this is fair use and I'm not just re-uploading his video, right? And so I have to give commentary on it. So if you want to see the whole video by itself, go to melodysheep channel, best channel on YouTube, and you'll see it raw. Stopping us from figuring out how to use photosynthesis in our solar panels. It's very
These
similar.
are mechanical trees. They mimic the real thing by soaking up carbon onto special plates that act like leaves. Once captured, the carbon can be buried or recycled, and the cycle repeats. A single one of these machines can sequester as much carbon as 1,000 living trees. Vast forests of artificial trees could be deployed in inhospitable regions.
Sequestration, by the way, in case you
And with
didn't know,
100 million of them, we could
putting
offset
carbon
our
dioxide
entire
in the
carbon
sink,
emissions.
like in the ground, it's soaking up the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, so it's not being a greenhouse gas. It sounds like a supervillain plot. That's a nuclear weapon right there. Nuke the ocean floor. I believe that would shake up the methane from the ocean floor.
Excess carbon dioxide in the oceans is weakening food chains by causing the water to become more acidic. Pulverizing a part of barren seabed would allow rock particles to soak up the excess CO2 and restore balance to the waters.
Can you believe we actually have nuclear fusion now?
A single nuclear bomb placed 5 kilometers beneath the seabed could shatter enough rock to sequester 30 years of carbon emissions.
We have it.
The bomb would have to be massive, potentially over 1,000 times more powerful than Tsar Bomba, the largest nuclear bomb ever dropped.
Tsar Bomba was 50 megatons. Humongous.
But the deep sea water pressure would contain the blast and minimize fallout.
I do not recommend this. I do not recommend this. But it is an idea, a concept nevertheless.
The best location could be the remote Kerguelen Plateau, where the seafloor is mostly barren and rich in basalt rock. This is geoengineering at its most extreme and most dangerous.
Glad he said that.
But preserving the oceans and millions of human lives makes even the most extreme ideas worth considering.
So he has his priorities straight. This is for the purposes of keeping life going.
For a safer way to manage the seas, We don't have to go far from shore.
I don't mean to patronize, but that is...
Artificial reefs, built from sunken ships and man-made materials, can become bustling marine cities, with some studies showing fish abundance increasing up to 20 times compared to bare seabed. Widespread artificial reefs could boost the ocean's natural carbon drawdown by offering habitats for trillions of corals, shellfish, and seaweeds that capture carbon during their growth. On a massive scale, these reefs could offer powerful natural defenses, reducing erosion and storm surges by absorbing wave energy.
That's a thing, tidal energy. In fact, I believe China has the biggest tidal energy power plant in the world.
But managing our planet's hydrosphere is about more than protecting our oceans. It means preserving the glaciers and ice sheets that cool the world and hold back rising seas. This is the Thwaites Glacier in Antarctica, a massive ice sheet that spans 75 miles. Rising ocean temperatures are causing warm oceanic currents to wind their way underneath the glacier, causing it to crack and destabilize. If it collapses into the sea, it could trigger up to 10 feet of sea level rise, flooding coastal cities around the world. To avert disaster, a geoengineer at the University of Lapland has a bold plan. The idea is to construct a massive 100-kilometer long underwater curtain around the glacier, designed to block warm ocean currents from reaching the underside of the ice. This vast undersea barrier would be engineered to withstand collisions with icebergs and could be removable if problems arise. At the opposite pole of the planet, ambitious proposals are being made to stop the loss of Arctic sea ice. Vast fleets of wind-powered pumps could draw seawater to the surface during the winter and spray it over the Arctic surface, where it would rapidly freeze in the frigid air.
By the way,
an American architect...
Because the albedo of ice is so high, in other words, it reflects so much light back into space, it's a compounding effect to have ice on the surface of the ocean. Because water by itself actually has a fairly low albedo. It's a dark color, but ice is a much brighter color, as you can see right here. So the more ice you have, the colder it gets. The colder it gets, the more ice you have, etc. It's a compounding effect. So,
has recently designed a polar umbrella, which would float in Arctic seas using solar power to harvest seawater and create new ice.
There's actually tools like this, plants like this that
deployed in the fastest melting regions, these umbrellas would cast a cooling shade that would lower surface temperatures and rejuvenate the Arctic ice.
This is basically just him saying, if we do need to do this, we have the ability. We can. If it's necessary, we can do it.
But most of these grand solutions have a common problem. They each require enormous amounts of resources and energy.
We would know when it's necessary.
Where do we get the power and materials? And how will the insatiable demand for energy shape Earth's future?
Thank God, we no longer have our culture in a stranglehold of the deep state and the cabal, because now we can actually get real information that everybody needs and can understand.
For the last 2 centuries, our energy use has been growing exponentially, surging over 7,000% and fueling a 100-fold increase in global economic output. Continuing this level of growth will eventually require generating hundreds of trillions of additional watt-hours every single day. But thanks to revolutions in solar power efficiency, covering just 0.3% of the Earth's surface in solar panels would be enough to power all of civilization.
That's right.
And the frontier of our solar-powered future will be one of the least livable regions of the planet: the deserts.
Why not, right? You know, in heaven, it is described as having, like walkways and paths of golden glass. That's what it is. Solar roadways.
Deserts provide ideal conditions for solar power with their vast, flat landscapes, abundant silicon, and constant sunlight. There are now proposals for massive-scale solar farms in the Sahara, capable of generating 4 times our current global energy usage.
Which would get us to a Type 1 civilization, based upon our power output.
But covering over 20% of this desert could have dramatic side effects. The increased heat absorbed by the dark solar panels could disrupt global weather patterns and cause a spike in temperatures, especially at the poles.
Definitely possible. Be careful with regard to.
No matter how or where we get our energy, producing too much on planet will eventually be deadly.
Feed your mind.
If our consumption grows at just 2% per year, we will use up all the energy available to Earth in as little as a few hundred years. But the real problem is that the waste heat from energy production at this scale would heat the Earth by over 20 degrees Celsius, which would make large parts of the planet uninhabitable.
It's talking about albedo right there.
This will be the defining challenge of the coming millennia. How do we balance continuous energy growth with a safe, stable planet?
That reminds me of Dredd, from the Judge Dredd series. They had those giant cities that were basically just single towers.
By placing large-scale solar power arrays in space, we could capture uninterrupted sunlight nearly 24 hours a day, then beam the power down as lasers or radio waves. Orbital power systems would shed their excess heat into the cold expanse of space, instead of heating up our atmosphere.
That kind of reminds me of Star Trek.
China is now planning a 1-kilometer wide solar array with the long-term goal of beaming gigawatt levels of clean electricity down from orbit.
But it was the Star Trek reboot. They had a drill.
And a team from Oxford is planning an even bigger station, 1.7 kilometers across, called Cassiopeia, designed to be built in orbit. But collecting the power in space and beaming it down still has its own waste heat problems, as energy is still being added to the Earth's system.
Indeed. But that's true one way or another.
The solution is to move our power-hungry industries entirely into space.
We could do that. And that's, I think, why you have those halos around Earth.
This way, the energy can be collected, spent, and radiated completely outside of Earth's fragile system. And to get all this material into space efficiently, we need something incredibly audacious. Like a highway to the skies, a space elevator would open safe and easy passage to the next technological frontier,
if we can mass produce
enabling the build-out of next-generation space infrastructure.
carbon nanotubes, we can build this. And we're that close to being able to do it. The rotational force of Earth would be enough to keep the cable suspended in space.
To build it, a cable over 36,000 kilometers long would be lowered from a counterweight out in space, then anchored to a port station on the equator. A space station could then be positioned at geostationary orbit, at the point where the gravitational and centrifugal forces balance
There's
out.
a movie with Brad Pitt in it. I forget its name, but the opening scene is him on a space
Laser
elevator
or
while it's
nuclear-powered rail cars would ascend the cable, carrying multiple tons of cargo at a time, which could drive launch costs down to under $100 per kilogram, 50 times cheaper than today. This could accelerate the mass production of solar power arrays, orbital data centers, research stations, and spaceports, laying the foundation for a new orbital frontier.
outside the gravity sink of Earth, the atmospheric friction, so much is possible out there. We've already taken care of 90% of the effort to get to other planets.
But building this beanstalk to the heavens would be a daunting engineering prospect,
This is like... can
requiring
anybody think
tether materials far stronger than anything that
couldn't
exists
have
today.
imagined This 2,000 years ago. Just like
And moving human industry into space comes with its own major risks, especially space debris. Tiny pieces of scrap metal as small as a fleck of paint can tear through satellites and infrastructure, creating even more debris and causing a chain reaction of destruction known as the Kessler syndrome.
that is a concept that happened in the movie with
To solve
George
this,
Clooney and Sandra Bullock.
AI-guided laser
Again, I forget
systems
the name
could
of the
rapidly
movie.
identify and
Other
deflect
space
small
movie.
debris.
But you can find it on IMDb, I'm sure.
While larger pieces could be safely captured and deorbited. If we can neutralize these risks, then a space elevator could be just the beginning of an even greater vision of our planet's future.
The halos.
is the crown jewel of space infrastructure: the orbital ring. This superstructure could become the backbone of our future civilization, a hub for everything from energy and transportation to climate management and tourism. In its basic form, a simple ring of wire would orbit the Earth around 200 kilometers up, with a stationary platform magnetically levitated above the spinning ring.
We can do this now, by the way.
It could be built as a free-floating structure or be tethered to the Earth at multiple points. Sky hooks and even hanging skyscrapers could dangle beneath the ring, serving as launch points, research hubs, or cities in the sky.
You wouldn't even need carbon nanotube technology because you would have the gravitational pull of Earth itself making it work.
Rotating the inner side independently would generate gravity through centrifugal force, making the area habitable and offering spectacular views.
And then you use the centrifugal force to make the gravitational pull on the ring itself, just like you said. We can do this right now.
While no current technology can simulate gravity on the outer edge, it could still serve as a zone for microgravity industries and research habitats.
That's right.
An intricate network of rings could be built at different inclinations, offering rapid point-to-point travel almost anywhere on the planet.
Make them bigger, more robust.
These layers could extend far outwards, even potentially networking with the moon.
That's right. And we can make the moon terraform,
But the sheer size of orbital rings would pose their own dangers. A shadow the width of the ring itself would sweep over the Earth each day.
Freaking cool.
For narrow rings, this would have little impact on ecosystems below.
Just something that we'd have to consider.
But wider rings, stretching over 1,500 kilometers, could cause major disruptions to the climate, blocking out the sun for an hour or more daily.
In time, we would just push the rings out farther and farther.
Building one would be a towering engineering feat, as the ring would require tens of billions of tons of raw materials and constant active computer control to prevent collapse. To avoid impacting the Earth, the resources could be mined from asteroids. This may all seem like a far-off dream, but there are already proposals for...
This is why I so desperately would love to live 2,000 years. Because I can conceptualize this right now, just as you can in this guy making the video. But if I had the time to compound interest grow my resources, 2,000 years, I could single-handedly do this. And so could you. That's why I want to live longer. And it's why I want the resources that I want. It'll break us free of all of our chains. Man, Just imagine.
Prototype orbital rings that cost as little as $9 billion.
The guy has the idea in his head. He knows it's possible. The only thing separating him from doing it is the resources. That's it. If the risks and challenges that can be overcome with the rings can become.
People and heavy cargo could be transported along the ring networks to anywhere on Earth in only a few hours.
This is what you can do when you get out of the scarcity mentality of the cabal.
Vast orbital cities and arable land could circle the planet and serve as new human frontiers. And with energy and heavy industry woven into the ring, we could scale our growth without disturbing the planet, preserving Earth as a sanctuary for life.
We might already have super life extension technology that evolves people like us. Same with the cure to cancer. We might already have it. We're so blind and stupid we are. People like George Soros. I just want to juxtapose that so you can see what we're being limited from doing. This is amazing. Together, our innovations can comprise a whole new layer of the earth. The anthropology humans made it. We're going to scratch the surface of what this earth can become. Engineered solar systems. Perhaps our growth will plateau on the planets and closest to the Earth. Or perhaps Earth will be a stepping stone to a much bigger journey. Engineering of the cosmos. This is how we go from stage 0 to stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 civilization, based on the Parships state. Controlling an entire galaxy. Alright, there you go, guys. I'm telling you. If you haven't already subscribed to melodysheep, go do it. They are an incredible YouTube channel. Their videos are fire. Alright. That's what I got for you today, guys. Love y'all. Peace.